Welcome back to the Security Token Show. This is one of our interviews, and today we are joined by Chase Ergen from DeFi Technologies. Chase, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. You guys have a lot of interesting news recently that we covered on this on the show for one, and the other one is brand new that came out today. We'll start with the one that we covered on the show, which is the fact that you guys are helping with the Nairobi Stock Exchange, Securities Exchange, excuse me, to create the Kenya Digital Exchange here, which should be Web3 friendly. Tell us a little bit about this collaboration here and what measures you're taking to ensure regulatory compliance, investor protections within KDX, especially given the diverse regulatory landscapes across African countries.
So we signed LOI last year with the Kenyan Stock Exchange, the KDX, and this has been brewing for more than about a year. We believe that East Africa is very Web3 friendly. They have taken the lead on, I would say, in Africa to provide the regulatory and liquidity opportunities for Web3 and digital assets to prosper. I've visited Kenya several times last year in preparation of that, and thanks to the DeFi team, we believe Africa is the future, and we're excited that Kenya is the first stop in that journey.
Fantastic. And considering that Kenya's, very high smartphone penetration, its position as a leading crypto market, especially in East Africa, how does KDX plan to leverage some of these factors when it comes to digital asset adoption?
Well, Kenya was the first to launch M-Pesa many years ago. You've seen people in Kenya able to transfer money on phones and trust their phone. Slowly, they've started to adopt Bitcoin, and I think the forward thinking regulator has said, how do we work on this and partnering with a firm like DeFi Technologies to make that happen is where we're excited.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And shifting to the other news that actually kind of is the most relevant today, actually, day of filming, is the fact that you guys just listed on Nasdaq under the ticker DEFTF. Tell us a little bit about the journey in taking a company in the Web3 space and getting it listed fully publicly here in the US.
It started about 3 years ago, interacting with Nasdaq and the SEC. The previous administration, I think, kept everything on hold, and the new administration has been getting through this. And we're one of the few companies in the digital asset space, Web3 space, that's publicly listed. And I think there's room for a lot more to come, and everyone will expand. This is the future of decentralized finance, and NASDAQ is clearly where we want to be, and we're excited.
Makes sense. And specifically now that you are listed, how does this align with maybe your broader strategy in bridging TradFi with DeFi?
We have a lot of opportunity with our subsidiaries, whether Valour Asset Management, Stillman Digital, DeFi Alpha, Reflexivity Research. We think there's opportunity in the United States for all of those. And the core thesis for us is how to go to emerging markets like Kenya and be the dominant ETP issuer, making it very easy for people to get secure and regulated access to decentralized finance products.
Got it. Got it. And Valor specifically, you mentioned is your asset management side to the business here. I know you guys have a variety they kind of listed out, but focusing on that one, you've launched and expanded to over 60, I believe, ETPs across 8 exchanges. How do these products maybe cater to the growing demand for regulated digital asset exposure?
I think that most people want exposure to the asset without any of the underlying risk factors that come along with it. So, asset managers, banks, family offices, individuals would rather buy a product through an ETP, which ensures that everything is audited, regulated, secure, and easy to use. And we think there's a large growth in all of the various tokens and many that will come in the future, and we're going to be on top of that. We should be over 100 by the end of the year.
Over
In
100 by the end of the year.
Yes.
And are those 100, do you think they're going to be in the same similar markets now, or do you have any target markets that you're going after for the remaining, call it 40-ish?
We're exploring South America, we're exploring Southeast Asia, and we will also be giving more straightforward mixes of things like yield-bearing Bitcoin, perhaps some other innovative strategies that you'll see. A lot of that depends on regulatory in these markets, but I think everything's moving ahead very nicely.
Interesting. I do want to touch on the yield-bearing Bitcoin, but before that, there's South America you just mentioned. Regulatory, of course, I'm sure is a challenge to kind of sift through. But aside from that, how do you, to begin with, and even decide on some of these markets, how do you assess demand for some of these ETP products to begin with?
Well, the whole industry is growing rapidly. So we're looking at adding new top 20 blockchains, and we're also looking at new markets. So both of that combined, we believe there's room for at least another 40 ETPs this year.
Are you seeing maybe RIAs and other asset managers in the space, with their clients kind of showing demand for maybe one over the other? I know you mentioned the Bitcoin yield. Maybe touch on kind of what inspired that product.
Well, with decentralized finance, there's a large opportunity to generate yield with various products. And by combining that with the safety and security of an ETP, we believe that that's an innovative product that people want to take advantage of. They don't want to just hold the asset, they want to get part of the yield. So we have a advanced formula to legally do that, and we think we can grow those markets and grow the volume, especially given the Nasdaq listing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So essentially, you guys are now listed on Nasdaq. You're building in Africa through KDX. You're pushing ETP innovation. What really is the end game for DeFi Technologies?
We think the next steps are closely related to AI, agentic trading. We also really believe in real world assets, the tokenization of real estate, of minerals, of hard currencies, and just merging the gap between traditional finance and decentralized finance.
Makes sense. And on the AI side, actually, what excites you about AI, and how is tokenization playing a role in the emergence of the two there?
Well, AI became consumer friendly in the last 2 or 3 years, and we think that that same technology will make its way into finance in the coming year or two, and we want to be on top of that. So we've done extensive investments into and research into AI and how that can legally and practically come into decentralized finance.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk now. I think that AI is going to power asset management and just wealth creation in the future, right? Because now you have the cash leg, which is your stable coins, yield coins, and you have the assets themselves on chain. Therefore, the AIs can talk to each other, interact. So I'm sure that's going to have an impact there with you guys. Any thoughts along those lines?
I think the regulatory and the technology will merge such that everything you described will become possible, where stablecoins will be legal in the United States. And after that, things like insurance, things like titles for real estate, all of those will be able to be traded using agentic protocols that are decentralized by nature.
Got it. And so, I mean, you guys are kind of essentially building a new exchange here. You're bringing new products on. You're looking at emerging tech like AI. Do you think that you're going to be aiming to leapfrog legacy infrastructure, or and building new rails, or do you think that still legacy will still upgrade in time?
I think if you look at cars, there's still, diesel cars, but the future is electric. The same thing in finance, people will still be able to use a checkbook for the next 20 years, but the young generation and more people will be native digital. We see that in Africa, we see that in South America, we see that in Southeast Asia. And I think as the US takes the lead, the rest of the world will take United States financial and AI policy and make it their own. So stable coins really do allow for a lot of that to take place, to go between those rails. And in DeFi Ventures, we're very active in exploring those new types of technology that do bridge the gap between those various rails, different currencies, different markets, time zones, and we're excited.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, I'll let you go in a sec, but one last question. If you had to, and you're not allowed to say stablecoins, by the way, but if you had to pick one asset class that would be fully tokenized first, whether it's treasuries, real estate, equities, private credit, whatever, what would your take be? Which one's the first to be fully tokenized?
I think it will be treasuries because they're so easy to handle, and you've seen that with Tether, and I think that's going to grow significantly.
And after treasuries?
Probably equities, and then private credit, real estate will be somewhere in the middle.
Got it. Who knows? Maybe there's going to be a DeFi token in the future, considering you're saying
We're
equities
exploring
next.
many possibilities depending on the regulatory, but now that we're in the United States, we're excited to take part in it. And I think this administration has really changed the landscape globally.
Phenomenal. Well, we're excited to see what's to happen. I know the crypto SEC roundtables are happening right now, specifically with a focus on tokenization. So you guys entering the space now here in the U.S. as well, I'm sure we'll drive things forward. Chase, thank you for having me. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.